For over 100 years, the infantry helmet has defined the British Army in both fighting quality and appearance. Whether through the unmistakable sight of a Tommy helmet, or saving the lives of British troops in Afghanistan, the helmet has undoubtedly had a key influence into how the Army fights and operates. In today's video, we'll be looking at 80 years of that history, from 1938 to 2018, and provide a brief illustrated guide into how the Army has developed in terms of its standard issue infantry helmet. In 1938, the British Army introduced the Mark II helmet, which was to replace its aging infantry Mark I helmets, which were dated back to 1916. Compared to the Mark I, the Mark II's helmet shell was slightly scaled down in size to give the British soldier a smaller profile during combat. Along the edge, the rim was changed to non-magnetic steel, which enabled the wearer to use the full range of equipment that was offered to him, which had been a prominent problem found with the Mark I. Moving to inside the helmet, the padding at the top of the head was changed to a cross shape, whilst at the sides of the shell the chin strap connectors were open to allow for the chin strap to be detached. Prior to this change, the Mark I strap was fixed to the top of the helmet shell, in addition to being fixed into place by the chin strap lugs at the sides. In 1941, the Mark II's chin strap was made more cost efficient and cheaper to produce. Originally, the strap had elasticated spring ends and was designated the chin strap Mark II. In 1941, however, the chin strap Mark III was introduced, which used a single strip of webbing as a strap. Compared to its German adversary of the 1940s, the Mark II offered no side or rear protection to its wearer. This design thought dated back to 1915, when the Army issued its first steel helmet. Made for the conditions of trench warfare, this helmet only took into consideration threats posed to the soldier from above. For 7 years, the Mark II served with distinction with the British Army. By 1945, a staggering total of 12 million had been produced. By 1944, however, the Mark II was beginning to be phased out of operational service and replaced by the newly produced Mark III helmet. The Mark III's origins date back to 1941, when the Army sought to rectify several faults in the Mark II, namely providing more side and rear protection to the wearer. Eventually, the Mark III was pressed onto the production lines in November 1943, and on the 6th of June 1944 it entered combat for the first time during the Normandy landings with the troops of 3rd Division. Despite being recognised as a new helmet by the Army, there wasn't really that many changes made from the Mark II. Besides a change in helmet shape, which many had come to associate with a turtle, the liner and the chin strap both remained identical. Nevertheless, the Mark III remained in service until the end of the decade, by which time the new Mark IV helmet began to be issued. The Mark IV continued to use the shell of the Mark III, but a new liner system was fitted in, although the headband materials were exactly the same as used by its predecessor. The difference between the two was the Mark IV now had a more efficient way of disconnecting the liner from the shell, with the addition of a lift-the-dot mechanism. The way this new function worked was the soldier would pull this flap, which would in turn disconnect the liner from the shell. This change aimed to decrease the time the wearer spent in detaching the liner from the helmet, and also allowed them to use the helmet for either water or food whilst on the front line. To accommodate this new liner, the chin strap lugs at the sides of the shell were also moved upwards to the edge of the helmet. In 1959, the Army was beginning to grow concerned with the amount of reports that were filtering through, regarding soldiers complaining about how uncomfortable the Mark IV was to wear. Taking the report seriously, the High Command introduced a completely reworked liner that was, for the first time since 1936, new in both material design and structure. Although regarded as the Mark V helmet today, at the time of production the Army never officially recognised this terminology, seeing the change in liner only as a modification to the Mark IV. Again, appearance-wise the Mark V was identical to the Mark III, but the headband of the liner was designed to be more comfortable to wear, learning from the mistakes made with the Mark IV. The most notable change was to a khaki-coloured stocking for the headband, which was intended to provide all-round comfort to the soldier's head. On the outside we can see the addition of 6 rubber pads which are added to provide further stability to the liner and create space between the wearer's skull and the helmet's shell. Surprisingly, despite looking comfortable compared to its predecessors, it was not well received by those who wore it. The troops frequently complained of an itchy feeling on their scalp, whilst others noted that when running the helmet bounced up and down on their head. Nevertheless, the Mark V remained in service until the late 1980s, bringing the total lifespan of the Mark III series of helmets to a total of 40 plus years of service with the British Army. Its replacement was the Mark VI, which was made out of ballistic nylon materials and transformed the British Army into the modern fight force recognised today. In 1987 the Mark VI entered service. For the Army it was sort of a revolution in helmet designs. One article comments that it was state-of-the-art headgear at the time of issuing. It was the first of its kind to use ballistic nylon as its material design, ensuring the helmet was able to provide superior amounts of protection to the wearer's head. On the sides we can see the addition of 2 bulges, which are specifically added to accommodate the use of personal radios and ear protection pieces. It was also the first helmet in the Army to use a camouflage cover, which was known as disrupted pattern material. This camouflage came in a variety of patterns, namely desert, woodland, arctic and later multi-terrain pattern. These covers would be issued to the troops depending on the theatre of war they were operating in. For example, the desert version was widely used throughout Iraq and Afghanistan to suit the local environments. For the first time in British Army helmets, there is a substantial amount of protection offered to the sides of the wearer's face, some 70 years after the first steel helmet was issued. In terms of the chin strap, the quality of it had improved. For the Mark VI, there was a leather-lined chin pad in which the chin was firmly supported and cushioned. What can also be seen as a more effective way of securing the helmet to the person, with the use of buttons intersected by a ring. Inside the shell there is now padding at the front and back of the helmet, which ensured the wearer's head was firmly ensconced into the shell. Nevertheless, the Mark VI had its faults. Soldiers often felt it put a lot of strain onto their neck, and in the mid-2000s it started to conflict with the Osprey body armour vests that were entering service. In 2005 the Mark VI evolved into a new and improved version that was officially designated the Mark VI-A. For the Mark VI-A, its material design was Kevlar, which is stronger than ballistic nylon, and its liner was changed to a patch of netting on which the wearer's head sits. Besides these points, the helmet itself remained the same to the Mark VI. After 30 or so years of service with the British Army, the Mark VI's life came to an end in 2009 as a result of it conflicting with other service equipment being issued. Urgent requests by those on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan compelled the Army to produce a replacement, and in 2009 the Mark VII helmet was issued. Introduced as an urgent operational requirement in 2009, the Mark VII continued to be made out of Kevlar, although it was marginally lighter than the Mark VI's, and had a different shape to ensure it no longer knocked the top of the Osprey body armour that was in service. Alongside the Mark VII, the Army introduced a new camouflage scheme known as multi-terrain pattern. Multi-terrain pattern was issued to ensure the British soldier could fight in all environments, a lesson the Army learned from its combat in Afghanistan, where the troops are fighting in both desert and woodland-like environments. While still retaining a similar liner to the Mark VI-A, i.e. the netting at the top of the shell, the The Mark 7 has the addition of several cushions around the ear and scalp areas, as well as a firmer front and rear padding. Around the chin strap, everything was the same to its predecessor, except there was now a longer strap that intersected a ring and attached to a secondary button to provide further stability to the helmet when in use. Although it's a helmet that was rushed into service, it became very popular amongst the troops for its combat effectiveness and durability. On many occasions it saved the lives of its wearers during combat, like Ranger Silbert Wilson of the 1st Battalion, the Royal Irish Regiment, who was knocked off his feet during a contact as its Mark 7 stopped an enemy bullet. Another instance was Corporal Tommy Cretan of the same battalion, who was saved by his Mark 7 when a Taliban sniper fired on him. Despite its popularity, durability and combat effectiveness, the Mark 7's life was short, lasting only 6 years. By late 2015, the new state-of-the-art Virtus helmet is being produced, as part of the programme to upgrade the Army's combat equipment and make sure the British foot soldier is ready to meet the demands of modern warfare.